Hi everyone and welcome to episode 319 of the Mighty Whites podcast, aptly titled Champions Again Ole Ole. Oh god, it's fantastic. I really thought that the Leedsiness was finally catching us up. 1-1 against already relegated Plymouth, who haven't had a goddamn shot on target and still went 1-0 up.
Making one sub much later than we should, and it was a left back.
Yeah, it was, well, a centre-back, really, that kind of is a left-back. But yeah, just that moment. Willie Nonto into Daniel Farke, great first touch, drives at the defence, cuts onto his right foot, places it into the far corner. Looked like maybe the keeper could have done a bit better, but we'll ignore that. Away end goes mental. Decent percentage of the home end goes mental. Few fights, few people pissed off. But what a moment. I was so jealous of everyone that was there.
And Manor Solomon a step away from going full tomorrow Ketspire and
he nearly took his shorts off.
Trying to take his shots off. He definitely had a moment.
He did the hand movement was there. He grabbed the side and then had a moment of no.
No, I am in a public place. I mean, taking off the tracking bras was already one step, and I'm sure he's probably being charged by the club for the recovery of that.
Those celebrations, they were absolutely unbelievable.
So you were watching this in a pub?
Yeah, in our local where we watch most of the away games.
And I was watching this on Bridlington Beach in between football matches. So it was just loads of parents huddled round phones.
You weren't mid-match during the moment then?
No, fortunately, was watching sort of the last 15 minutes or so. Saw the goal, and then just stood around going, "Yeah, this is a very long 5 minutes.
Yeah,
this is awful. Oh god, they've got a corner."
That header wide, even though, and we all heard the referee's whistle go for a free kick before we even headed it. And we still all had a collective heart attack as that header went wide. And we all panicked and were head in hands going, Jesus. And then I think it was Matty just said, I'm sure that he'd already blown whistle. And all of us went, oh no, I heard that, but it didn't make any difference to the amount of panic.
Yeah. It was a rough one, that one. But yeah, it has to be said, it's much like how we won against Sheffield United and Sunderland. It was definitely the much more fun way to do it.
Yeah,
especially knowing that Burnley were. It's sort of like the way Man City won the title. Admittedly, not quite as dramatic.
Yeah.
But knowing that Burnley will have been there going, we're the champions if this stays as it.
Yeah.
Never mind. Tell Natasha to go home.
Yeah. No, she carried on going. I couldn't even be asked making the joke. I put on our Twitter, insert obvious joke about reaching for something in the distance so close you can almost taste it. I couldn't be asked making the joke work. I just said, you do it for me.
I think, bearing in mind, you ask us each season now. You ask us the question of your out there football prediction.
Yeah,
Natasha Bedingfield singing at Turf Moor was on no one's radar.
Yeah, because they have got the American owners now, including one of the two Watt brothers, who is TJ Watt. JJ Watt? I think they're the two names. I think it's TJ that owns them. Anyway, you could see maybe some sort of celebrity thing because of that. But yeah, going with Natasha Bedingfield, who isn't even American, so it doesn't really line up with all the celebrity culture. Yeah, it was an odd one. It did make me think, I know that you've got tour dates coming up and you're around here quite soon. It's a shame it was in Plymouth, not Ellen Road, because I think that we probably could have got the Kaiser Chiefs to actually play.
Yeah.
I mean, they've played at Elland Road before. They were a lot less famous then.
Yeah.
And then really famous when they actually did it as a gig. They played there at like half-time a long time ago. I can't remember if it was half-time or pre-match. I know
It was half-time.
Yeah.
They were some lads from Leeds at that
Yeah.
point. Yeah, 4 tenors, get them back.
Oh, God, I forgot about that. We're just going to end up with that one where they're all where all the Elland Roaders booing the singer and cheering the dancers, aren't we?
Yeah.
That's the most famous one. The game itself, obviously, you'll have seen the highlights after, but you only got to half watch it because you were busy. The performance wasn't great in the first half, but like we were miles better than them, despite the fact that they but basically that Bundu, who has been their best player for the last month, had a really good 5 minutes. He had one really good run where he beat a few players and hit the post and it went wide, and then another one where he had a pretty good run. Although, luckily, I don't need to bring up that I didn't think Joe Rodon was very good on the goal because of his interview after the game saying he was shit on the first goal. So he knows. Off the post into Sam Byram, who has absolutely no time to react. Own goal, 1-0 Plymouth. And you did have that moment of,
shit. Here we go again.
Yeah. I was it does show the difference though between the promotion and winning the title. If we'd have had that game and it was to get promoted, I'm not sure that everyone in that pub would have made it to 90 minutes. Yeah. It was, bearing in mind that we did, having said, I'm not that bothered about the title. And compared to you, I don't think I was. But as that game went on, I got more and more and more bothered. I really didn't want us to screw it up at the end.
Yeah, it's that thing of, now that you're there, you might as well do it.
Yeah.
Just to put the game into context, I am going to go through a few of the stats here. The glaring one being Plymouth shots on target 0, which is very Football Manager.
Which I believe means, I think that means that we've played them twice this season and they haven't had a shot on target.
Yeah, they also managed 22% possession, 177 passes to our 600. And we had 89% pass accuracy to their 49, which that's horrendous. Yeah. I'm so glad we did it. Just like you say, because you're at that point already.
Yeah.
It'd be so stupid to not win the league having been top as long as we have now.
Yeah. And it's not just that I think that we're the best team in this league. And I really do. It's that with a couple of, without some bits of bad luck and some bits of bad goalkeeping, like we have probably been as dominant as any team since it started being called the Championship, which is what, 2004-5? Because it was our first season there.
Yeah.
When you look into the deeper stuff behind the numbers, like Reading's 106 points, they weren't, to be honest, they probably weren't that much more. It wasn't even that close to being as dominant as we were in a lot of those games. But we did more stupid things. So it really be different because I still to this day think we were the best team in the league last season as well. Having seen everyone, but we just couldn't hold it together, and we did do the Leedsy thing, and we did fall apart. And this time we've done the opposite. When the pressure really came on right at the end, other teams faltered, and we've won 6 in a row and only conceded 2.
Yeah. Like you say, one of those being an own goal now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think ultimately, I think it's deserved, and I think there is the added reward in our case of this is why. And look, we will get into one day dissecting Farke's style of play, but this is the reward for being an attack-minded team.
Yeah.
Is that you get to this stage of the season and you just go, no, we have scored. What is it about?
It'll be 95 because we needed 7 to get to 100.
95 goals this season. That's absolute insanity. And yet there's about 3 players you can look at and go, oh, they probably should have scored a few more. And yeah, this is the reward for just banging in goals left, right, and centre.
Yeah. I was very glad that it was quick in the second half because it could have got really tetchy, but that equaliser comes pretty early. Mano Solomon, who I keep telling them is left-footed, gets down the left, good cross. It's Jayden Bogle attacking the near post on a cross from the left, from right back, because that's what happens. I think he gets a little flick on it, and then the defender does as well. And Nonto's just timed his run well, tucks it in from close range. And I must admit, not my first thought. My first thought was just cheering. Right? My first thought was just for cheering and just happiness. And I was wrong to think this, but about a minute later, I did think we might end up getting 4 or 5 here. Like after we got 1, I thought that we might just really kick on, but fair play to Plymouth. I mean, we did mention it beforehand that Plymouth, it's weird to say because they're already relegated, but Muslich's Plymouth are not a bad side, and they're particularly not bad at home.
Yeah, like I said, I think they are in the position where they are a bit unlucky because of how they've turned it around kind of these last couple of months.
I will say we did know this. It wasn't the correct answer, but Connie and Benny did go for Rooney to be the first manager sacked in the Championship. And if they had been, they'd probably have stayed up.
Yeah, they seem to have hired, got the right man for the job. As you say, it was just the damage was done, I think, unfortunately. I know they have a couple of players that they'll be fighting to keep hold of now. But I'd like to think under that regime, they'll give themselves a decent chance. I'm not tipping anyone to bounce back at the first opportunity because that is clearly just a kiss of death at this point from me.
It's not just you this season. I've had a quick look. I can't do the final scores because there's still stuff to happen, but there's some big minus numbers in there for a few of us.
Oh yeah,
and look, I haven't added up the numbers. I know that there'll be suspense and stuff for later, but I'm pretty sure Connie's won. The only bit of controversy was Peru's goal getting disallowed. Solomon threw ball for Nonto, and it was hard to tell if Bogle got a touch or stepped over it. And in real time, I did think Bogle touched it, which is why I didn't jump up with the stuff. I straight away thought offside. And because they just insisted on showing replays from side on, you couldn't tell. But there was a video on the EFL channel that was titled as Behind the Scenes of Leeds' title-winning day. So I clicked on it. It's not behind the scenes. It's just like different camera angles. But one of the camera angles is from sort of behind the goal on that. And Bogle definitely flicks it.
Yeah.
Quite a big flick as well once you're on that angle. So it was offside, which, as we've scored again, it doesn't matter.
That's not the narrative people want, Jack.
No. There was a good. Obviously, the main thing is we've won, and it makes tomorrow's open top bus so much better. That there's a trophy to parade around, and it's going to be town is going to be an absolute fucking madhouse.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting day.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah. I am unfortunately working, but I have already informed my boss I'm just disappearing for a couple of hours. And fortunately, he has gone. Well, I got the response of just a thumbs up. So, because I must admit, the other takeaway I had was, and I couldn't have justified this, leaving Mrs. at home with a 4-year-old and just swanning off to the bottom end of the country. But when I was seeing them videos, not even from the promotion day, it was the night before. When I saw all the videos from Plymouth, I got more than a pang of jealousy, and never more so than watching Eddie Gray sinking beer and singing Marching On Together. It puts such a big smile on my face. And I think it's fair to say, and we won't be the only ones to say this, the ground is being redeveloped. Get that man his fucking statue, will you?
Yeah, he definitely deserves it. Again, just line it with, Charlton, Bremner, Gray, Lorimer, Beckford.
Candle.
Do you have them as like a joint statue, like them two celebrating a goal together?
Now, I hope that they put something up because I know that a lot. You want that. We needs to be a Howard Wilkinson one.
He's already got a bar. I don't know what more that man needs.
I don't think he needs any of it. I need him to have it.
I'm saying now the Eddie Gray northwest corner is an appropriate level.
It just feels so bad to have won it, and it is one of the years where no one can argue that the best two teams haven't gone up. I mean, both teams but I don't hate Burnley. I don't like Burnley either. Some of the people there when we went were interesting, but most of them will be fine because most people everywhere are fine. If you get 100 points and don't win the league, you are allowed to consider yourself a bit unlucky.
Yeah, it's. I think at the end of the day as well, looking at that, it's two teams who ultimately got the jobs done when they needed to the most. And I know Sheffield United had a pretty good run of digging out wins in games that they weren't playing especially well in. But I think we just went with the Newcastle approach of, no, we will just score a load of goals to get out of this division. And then you have the Burnley approach of, no, we're going to go like 3 calendar months without conceding a goal at home. And what are you going to do about it? Yeah. Nothing, that's what.
I did hear a thing because I listened to NTT 20 while I was working earlier today. Our XG against for the season is lower than Burnley. It is a bit of a way. If we'd have had James Trafford in goal, we might have conceded like 6 goals this season. Because I think I can't remember the exact numbers, but obviously Burnley have conceded 16. And I think their XG against was like, it was like 34 or something. It was like, they have conceded less than half of what it was, which is pretty unbelievable. But they've got a really good defence and a really good goalkeeper and played in a way that kept it tight as well. So yeah, we'll see them next season. The big news from today is that Parag Mate has given an interview after the game and confirmed that Farke's manager next season.
Gone by June?
Gone by November, maybe.
It's good, right? That's the main takeaway. Good.
If they're going to keep him, you want it confirmed immediately. You don't want any messing about waiting for all these stories to come out.
Yeah, I will have my reservations about it, but I am intrigued to see how we will set up in the Premier League. That being said, if you have someone who wins the league and gets you 100 points, scoring 95 goals, to sack them for the next season would be absolute lunacy. Now, don't get me wrong.
I wouldn't call it lunacy because I do understand what the logic is. I think it would be the harshest thing that's maybe ever happened in football to a manager.
I would stick with lunacy purely because if we go up, given the track record of promoted teams the last couple of years, I do think there is, outside of the size of Leeds United going back up, so there will be probably more money on us to stay up. But ultimately, we will be one of the favourites to go back down.
Yeah, I would assume that.
And
I don't know if we'll be odds on, but we will be one of the 3 favourites.
and then realistically, there is a very good chance of that. If you stuck with Farke for the year and you went back down, it would be disappointing, but I wouldn't say it's to be not expected.
Mm.
Whereas if you went, right, we are going to hire someone, and we are hiring someone because we believe they will keep us in the Premier League, and then they fail, it's fucking stupidity is what it is.
Yeah, that was the key with it, that if they did replace him, it had to go really well. Otherwise, it's a disaster. He said that Mate said that he had told Farke privately earlier on, but he didn't want to just come out and speak publicly, quote, because someone wanted to put out a rumor or whatever. So like, it appears that I still think that someone at the club said something just because it was the Mail and that's where they always leak stuff. But I'm glad that it's all sorted either way. If they're going to keep him, they're going to keep him. One of the things that's come out is it sounds like Farke's having a big say in the recruitment, which I'm not mad keen on. Not because the players that he's gone in for have been bad. Nearly every successful club, it's not really the manager signing the players. It's more the scouting department. Now, I don't mind. Obviously, Farke will have a say, but we'll have to see how big the crossover is. Like, if we just sign 4 lads out the Bundesliga, then we'll have to. But we need to look far and wide because you need to find some value when you go up to Premier League. You need to find some players who.
I mean, one of our best players didn't even come from the Bundesliga; it just came from
the Zweite Bundesliga.
Yeah. And look how well that is. So, Dreiter League, go that far. Yeah. They'll never see it coming, Jack. They'll never see it coming.
Let's get ourselves to Unterhaching. They might not be in the Zweite Bundesliga. I haven't looked in a long time, and I haven't done an FM save in Germany in a long time either. The other key quote that bodes well in theory, but we'll see what happens. Mate said the club would, quote, spend every penny we're allowed to spend in the Premier League. Which, good, because you are going to have to spend the money. But it's not really about that. We spent plenty of money under Jesse Marsh. It was just spent badly.
Unfortunately, it was spent for Jesse Marsh and on Jesse Marsh.
Yeah.
That was the problem. One of it, coincidentally, just going through Instagram earlier today, and one of the Jesse Marsh Monday Night Football clips came up of him talking about his high defensive line. And in this clip from a training session at Thorpe Arch, you could just see a left winger stood about 15 yards away from the right back. And I was there going, he's in acres of space and he's got 20 yards to run into here.
Yeah, which is one of the things that showed. No, that was the plan.
Yeah, it's what he wanted. Oh no, they played a crossfield ball. How can we possibly legislate for this? It's the one thing I'll say is when you kind of go back to the previous promotion, there's no allowing for Rafinha. Like you can't predict that.
That's what you're trying to do. That's the sort of thing you're trying to find. But it's very unlikely you'll get another one like that.
But I do think, and however you feel about them now and in their last season at the club, signing players who were certainly on the fringes of good international teams, a la Diego Llorente, Robin Koch, who were on the fringes of actually good international teams, was something of a statement of intent. Rodrigo as well. And whether we have that sort of pull now without someone as renowned as Marcelo Bielsa, I definitely, I would say we are a less attractive prospect than we were in 2020 to players of a certain level.
Yeah, I think that's fair, especially, I don't know if it's for certain, but players from the Spanish-speaking world. I think that there was a lot of work with Bielsa.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think what I think with the sort of Rafinha thing says to me, and I don't know how well we'll be able to do this, because that was from a team that was in the Champions League that season. But I think it does mean you have to go to some good clubs in good leagues. You're never going to be able to get them from the very top, but mid-table to like maybe chasing Europe level teams in the other top 5 leagues, and you try and take their best player.
Are we going to be signing Charlie Cresswell in this case?
But that's the sort of thing that they need to look at. Like it's not like when we started this and I didn't have a kid and work was less busy and all that stuff, I did watch quite a lot of European football, so I would have opinions of it. I don't know anything anymore about that foreign muck.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is it certainly with the example of Rafinha and still now, if you get an offer from a Premier League team and you're in a league, you're playing in a league, and yes, you might be playing in the Champions League, but if you go into that with the opinion that we will only play, I mean, is it 8 games now you play in the sort of initial group stage?
Yeah.
But essentially, you're playing in a league where you're not going to be able to compete for anything other than second at best. And it doesn't, I know every now and again a team has a bit of a run and will push PSG, but like you look at how early they won it this year.
Yeah.
That they've just been able to put out the kids essentially for the rest of the season.
I'm assuming they rotated, but they did get beat by Liam Rosenior's Strasbourg.
I know, brilliant, wonderful. But yeah, like that's so. If you can offer the something like the Premier League, where yes, you're not going to be playing in Europe, but you are going to be in the most watched league in the world, and your wages are going to significantly increase.
Yeah. It's teams such as, like I've just literally looked at the Bundesliga for an example and seen in 11th and then reminded me that that's like the first major transfer story that seems to have something to it. It could happen, but in 11th is Augsburg, and their goalkeeper is Finn Damon, who by all accounts is a pretty good goalkeeper. His stats are really good. His contract has just been extended like 2 days ago, but it wasn't a new contract. It was one of them just, you've played so many games.
Triggered a clause.
Yeah. But he's a German goalkeeper. He's been Augsburg's number 1 for all of this season, and he's been there a couple of years. But the other thing with him is that his mum's English. There was quite a few stories saying that he don't think he's going to get a cap for Germany, but if he came to England and played well, maybe he'd start getting him the England squad.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose you're now looking at at the England squad where I don't get me wrong. I think Jordan Pickford's got a good few years left in him yet, but he's over 30 now.
Yeah, Damon's 27.
Yeah, you've got Pickford who's over 30. Nick Pope is on the older side as well, but not by goalkeeper standards, but in terms of
there is another one that there's been some links with. Basically, if Newcastle sign James Trafford. But yeah, but those are the sort of play. When I just saw Augsburg, it reminded me. But if you see, who's the, they came 8th in the league last season, and he was their standout best player. You're probably going to get a good footballer, but whether we could get anything close to picking up someone like Rafinha, it's very unlikely. You have to get lucky, and you have to be lucky and good to get someone like that.
I mean, there was the, I think you shared it the other day, actually, in our group chat with Alex, the under-21s game that Rafinha featured in.
Alongside Pablo Hernandez.
I just want to see if I can find that team again now, just to go through that quickly, because it was...
it's like Strauchin holding
so Casilla, Drama, Casey, Charlie Cresswell, Leif Davis, Pascal Strauch and Jack Jenkins in the middle, Hernandez, Rafinha, Poveda, Tyler Roberts.
Yeah.
So, yeah, strong attacking lineup.
It really is no wonder I got properly into. I mean, obviously, you got more into everything about Leeds United when Bielsa was here, but I did get way more into the actual making sure that I watch every under-21 game and stuff like that.
Yeah, it'll be. I mean, I think one of the main things you need to be able to do when you come up is maximizing every pound you spend. So if you can find a solid goalkeeper from a league where they don't have a lot of, or from a club that doesn't have a lot of financial power behind it, then it's just trying to stretch it every pound you can when you, well, I'll say every pound, every £1,000,000 that you spend essentially. And look, I know not every transfer is going to work out, but you need, as we've said in this, we certainly need at least 3 very good players to come into this team and be able to hit the ground running off the bat. And I know there's more positions that we want to cover than that.
But you need 3 standouts probably. And 4 other good ones. And
again, and as daft as this is to say, that the Premier League has again changed a fair bit in the since the 2020 promotion. And I think you look at now this era of selling homegrown players and this sort of merry-go-round of young players that's going on that wasn't really a thing when we first got there.
That is something that we need to look at though when we go up. Who might, like obviously Forest have ended up high in the table, but pre-season you didn't know that was going to happen. Something like them signing Elliot Anderson, who shouldn't really have been available, Newcastle didn't want to get rid of. There will be other Premier League teams this year who have to get rid of a youth player that they really like.
Well, because I think the other thing
we need to be ready to jump on it.
The other thing that's quite interesting with that is that a number of those players that have moved around, whether it's Anderson, Cole Palmer, is it Minte going to Brighton as well?
Minte went. The weird one, because he wasn't young, was Vlachodimos going to Newcastle and then just not playing.
But these moves that have taken place, and because of the money you're spending on them, you do have to play them. So it is these clubs.
Except that one Chelsea bought. What was it? Amari Kellerman, was it, from Villa? Who played about 14 first team minutes and they paid about 15 million quid for.
Yeah, well, Chelsea's spending habits are something entirely different.
Yeah.
But yeah, so if the opportunity does come up for these players, like you say, you've got to be ready to jump on that. And I do think you've had some pretty successful ones at the moment. And again, we won't go into it too much now. We'll probably come on to it once we get closer to the summer, the actual summer itself, and looking at who from the relegated teams would you be wanting to try and pick off there to add to the squad.
We'd also need to see, like, actually look in detail, because who's out of contract, things like that as well.
Yeah.
One good thing is, in terms of watching the under-21s, I'll probably pick it back up next year. Hopefully we'll be able to pick up a few decent youngsters and bolster it a little bit. But I don't know if you saw a couple of days ago, the Premier League have agreed to get rid of that fucking stupid rule where you can't show a PL2 game if there's a Premier League game on. Because they're worried about, no one's going to watch Liverpool v Arsenal because Leeds under-21s are playing Derby under-21s. They've finally got rid of it, so it'll be worth getting LUTV again and watching the games again.
Yeah, which it makes all the sense in the world. But yeah, it's this nice period we're in now where we're champions and you just chill out for a month or so before the panic starts. Well, I say a month. I give it about 2 weeks before you start with the. Why haven't we announced anyone yet?
Yeah, I mean, the playoff final isn't for 20 days. So, like, the championship season doesn't end for another 20 days. And
season's done, mate. Season's done.
Yeah, I think that even we have to give it a few weeks before we start worrying. But hopefully back. I have this is a problem. I have no idea when we'll be back. With the podcast, it'll be when it is. We'll see when there's something to talk about.
Yeah, when there is something worth discussing,
Yeah,
we'll think about it.
It might be that we end up doing. It might even end up being semi-often, but we might end up with a few that are like 10 minutes. This one thing has happened. Talk about the one thing and then go. So yeah, we'll see what happens with all of that. But yeah, Leeds are champions. Leeds are deserved champions. And if you happen to be in Leeds tomorrow, which I dare say a fair few of you will be, we'll see you there.
Yeah.
So nice one. I've been Jack. See you.
I've been Casey.